So I need a couple of volunteers, some agronomists, probably preferably somebody that's got a knife on them. I can lend one. Anyone coming up here? Come on, I need some help. What's that, a phone? We're just going to go back to the beer tent if I don't get any volunteers. Whoa, there's a threat, hey? Okay, you come take my knife. Come help me here. Does anyone else have a knife or something to dig with a little bit? Yeah.
Can I still hold my beer?
You can still hold your beer. Go dig me a plant from that far plot there. Try to get down underneath the roots. I literally have no one else that carries a knife. Ridiculous. So now, Nathan, when you're done, Nathan, come over here and grab one out of one of these plots here for me. If you can get the seed out, that'd be great. So, how many of you guys have any experience with precision planters, row crop planters? A couple of you guys? 2 or 3? So, what are the big interests in moving towards experimenting with small grains crops using a planter is... Thank you, sir.
And then one from...
Yeah, one from one of these ones here. The way I look at it is the technology as far as seed placement and precision is a step above our traditional air drills. Now these are the common planters that have been used in corn, and around here it's more dry beans and sugar beets, but they're very precise, and we're going to go take a look at it. And I can explain how they work and why I'm interested in working on them as far as adapting them to some of our type of agriculture.
Enough for you?
Yeah. Okay, now I need another volunteer since Nathan was so good. Who's holding the least? Tom Jensen.
Okay.
Maybe just try to make sure that's one plant. Ben, all right. Just find me one plant. Don't worry about the soil, it's healthy. So the project behind, the plot demonstration behind me is actually wheat planted with a precision planter. Now, the reason that we're interested, we started off, we're going to talk about canola. We're also using it for dryland grain corn production. The truth is, these planters, in all honesty, weren't really developed for zero-till production. And they have some really nice benefits, but we're going to have to adapt them a little bit to make it work. Some of the really neat advantages that they have is you have 100% control over the placement of that seed. So instead of running your grain cart and it's just pouring the seed out, you can precisely pick one at a time, and it's metered at each opener. So that's, some of you guys may have heard of that fancy new seeder that's going on. How many of you guys saw that at Palooza? What's that even called? The CX6, that's what it's doing, is individual row metering attached to a cart. Well, the technology is actually already here. They're just sort of borrowing ideas, and that's a lot of what we're doing with innovation. What I'm interested in with the wheat now, and we had applied for a project to study wheat, which was not accepted this year, but there's always next year, is to take that level of management that they do with corn production and apply it to our wheat system. There's some neat opportunities. So what do we have here? How did you count the tillers?
I can.
Count them up for me. Are you having a hard time distinguishing plants from tillers there? Or?
These were tied together, so I got two tillers.
Okay, perfect. He's still counting.
7 tillers.
So we have 7 tillers on this plant. And we have 2 on this one. So you know which one they picked them from? Are you watching them closely? Where was the 2-tiller one from? Higher seeding rate, right? So we would kind of know that interaction. 50 seeds per meter square this plant was, 7 tillers. Now a corn producer is going to look at this and be really, really ticked off. "50 seeds per meter squared. This is how much seed you put over an entire acre. That's pretty wild, eh? It actually doesn't look that bad considering it. That's a third of a bushel with this wheat variety. So the plant, you couldn't do this with an air seeder and have this kind of a stand. That's what the planter allows you to do. I'm not suggesting that we want to start seeding at that type of rate, but when you take this type of a technology and you apply it to some other principles that we learn, what the wheat guys want is not 2 tillers even, they want 1. They want no tillers at all. They want 1 cob per plant, and that's their management strategy. So they're very particular with their planting population, their cultivar selection, and their seeding rates. That's everything for a corn grower. That's what they want. So if we kind of think about these guys, in all honesty, are a little bit more advanced as far as the management level. Wheat grows well here. It always has. And I think we sort of become, honestly, a little bit complacent on taking wheat to the next level because we've been a little bit focused on this other yellow crop behind us for the last 10 years, right? I'm interested in this type of management for a number of reasons. If we can start getting our wheat where we're managing our tillers, the number of heads per plant, you can also supposedly manage tillering with fertility timing. The premise there is you don't put all of your fertilizer down at seeding. You wait till it gets to jointing and then you put more fertilizer on, because with a lower fertility regime, you're also discouraging tillers. So you're trying to get to this perfect scenario where, and if you've ever heard these world record wheat growers, they're really focused on this type of management.
The danger of that is, though, that relies on significant moisture at the right time too. You could end, because the heads are deciding on how many kernels they're going to have on that thing well before even this stage.
Sure. We have these fancy little things down south here that go around like this. This may be first step under irrigation.
No, I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying that's the risk you take on dry land anyways.
Yeah.
With split applications of nitrogen.
I'm not sold on split apps and wheat. I think that the big thing in Alberta in general, our growing season is like really 3 months.
But there are other advantages to one tiller.
Absolutely. Why don't you give me an
Well,
example?
one is maturity, even maturity. You don't have to go out there and use glyphosate illegally anymore. 2, you can fight off the fusarium a lot better, graminary I'm talking about, because it likes lower heads, and you're not going to get lower heads with this all at 70 and above centimeters.
Fusarium doesn't like lower heads.
What's that?
It doesn't like lower heads.
No, but I mean, it wants to splash up. You can't, if there's one single and it's got earlier timing on it, you miss it by time and you miss it by height as well.
Is the time not the bigger issue?
I think the time's the bigger issue.
Right, Ken?
What I'm really interested in with this is uniformity.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Right.
it's not necessarily the tillers. Sometimes it all depends on when the inoculum is flying, what crop stage you're at. What I think is a really interesting premise here is if we can improve the uniformity of the stand, the emergence, you can control the time at which it's exposed to flowering. So the less tillers you have, the shorter time frame, you're minimizing, and it's back to risk, like you mentioned. That, you couple it with a few other things like irrigation scheduling, resistant cultivars. This is what really kind of excites me about agronomy is, you can have innovations without, what's his, Roger, he was kind of down on the drip irrigation stuff, right? A little bit, did you get that feeling? Yeah. Well, I'm the guy that has 2 fields of drip irrigation. I'm really excited about it because if you couple that with zero tillage and all these other management practices that, disease management, I think that's sometimes one thing by itself may not work, but you couple it with 2 or 3 strategies and now you've got a winner. So that's what's fun about agronomy is you play around with these combinations of things, and next thing you know, you're taking it to another level of management.
And although I can't prove it by science, you're going to have a stronger stalk as a single main stem as you would with
Then you deal with lodging issues too. That's a really good point. Hadn't even thought about that one. So right now I'm actually talking about something I really don't know about. We haven't studied it here on wheat. I hope that will be the next project that we get to do with our planter down the road. Any quick questions on that? All right. The neat thing about planting population, and even in this one, when we look at percent emergence, at our 50 seeds per meter squared, our percent emergence came out at 109%. Maybe counted a tiller or two on that one, but interesting premise. As our seeding rates go up, our percent emergence, percent survival, however you want to look at it, it really goes down. And in this demo here, we did the plants. We went from 50 to 100 seeds per meter squared. It went to 81% emergence. Down to up to 150 seeds, we're at 63% emergence. So even on the wheat, a little surprising to me, our emergence is really going down. And a lot of that is, I think, that interplant competition within the seed row. So that's an important thing to consider. You know, if we ever got into a hybrid wheat type scenario, all of a sudden seed costs are going up, we become a little bit more wary on what we're doing with our seed inputs. But at the same time, a lot of research has shown that the higher seeding rates are so beneficial in many, many ways. Like we just showed, that tillering advantage to a higher seeding rate. There's the weed competition. We totally underestimate how much seeding rate helps manage weeds. But it sort of leveled off after 150 seeds per meter squared, and we weren't even losing. We were still at 58% at the 300 seeds per meter squared, that plot over there. So seemed to stable off on wheat. We're going to turn around and talk about canola. Yes, sir.
So before you leave that,
Okay.
why do the canola council, go at target density? So they're not talking about how many seeds we plant just yet. They're saying how many plants will I seed to harvest.
Yeah.
But yet on wheat, we don't talk like
We've
that.
never talked about it. That's
Right?
exactly
We've
why
never-
I brought this into the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we do you have a target density on, if you have Brian Barris here, as you have,
Yeah.
he has a different perspective on that, right?
Well,
He just says, I don't care what we end up with. I want to be concerned with what we manage, and that's 400 seeds in a square meter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
It's
I don't know.
it's an easier target, scientifically speaking. You know it's 90% germ. You know, so you can adjust easier. They're trying to make it easy for you as a grower to get the right target.
Well, are you
but-
or not?
Well-
Because the challenge is, if I talk to growers, like myself or anybody, and you say to them, so what's your percent mortality in your wheat crop? Oh, 1,
Nobody
maybe
has
2.
a clue.
1, maybe 2.
Nobody has
And
a
then when
clue.
you say, actually, let's go count your stubble and see how many you actually harvested last year, because we know that you put 34 in a square foot in, and we go and find 16 plants that you harvested. So you put in 34 and you harvested 16. Quick math, I'm thinking you got about 50% mortality, and he freaks out.
Yeah. The premise is, though, they do give you a target stand. I've seen them. I work with them.
Yeah.
So you're given the seeding density, because that's what you can't tell when you're planting what you're going to get. So you have to have something to start with. So they give you a number of seeds per meter squared based on good germ, good vigor seed, in other words, certified seed. Then from there, you're to back it up with what you actually got with the density, so you can adjust for next year when you use your seed lot, whatever. So they're two tied together. I would not agree with you that there's just one being promoted. It's just Brian Bears starts off with something that is scientifically incremental. It's the same seed lot, same germ, so you can work with it, and you would be too. And then afterwards, you then have the density. And so to say that density is not being worked on by wheat, it is not. That's not a true statement. It is. It's just very few people use that. That's all.
So if I go to the Canola Council of Canada, right? And I go and use the calculator for that plant stand, that's an amazing little, and Autumn started that. She was the instigator with that, and they said, figure it out. So, okay, and I just set my standards and say, how many seeds to put in the ground to have this happen? So you apply proactively the agronomy to get to the target density, rather than just saying, you know what, why don't we throw a shit pile of seeds out and then just see what we
But
harvest.
the problem is not enough of the relationship to what is going to happen with 400 or 300 or 200s out there yet. The Canola Council has got that beat years ago.
So you want
All right, you two guys are going to argue later, but you're on to something I'm going to discuss anyways. What they don't take into account when we're just focused on seeding rates, obviously kernel weight. I think Most of you guys are here, you know about that. The other thing that's never considered is the system that you're planting into, the openers that you're using, the environmental conditions at the time of seeding. All of these factors are going to impact your eventual plant stand. And yeah, what we care about is plant stand, but even more than plant stand, we care about the yield at the end of the day. We want to have a healthy crop that can endure any stresses from whether it's weeds or insects, you name it. There's a lot of distribution factors that we want to manage. Now, canola has been one that's picked on mostly as far as really getting poor overall survival. What would you guys guess you're getting as far as plants at the end of the day on a percentage basis with canola?
Which crop?
Canola.
60%.
Any other throw out there? What do you think average you're getting? Does anybody really know?
65, 70, but I've seen it with these units. I've seen it really high cannons. It's
Yeah.
scary.
What do you see?
So I'd actually I think it's less than 50%.
Yeah.
And that's the number that I've been hearing that's been raising a lot of heads. Again, hybrid seed production canola, you automatically have to pay for that more expensive seed. You've got the seed treatments already included because everybody's told you that they're very beneficial. I can tell you they are too. You know, this is true, but it all comes at a cost. And when a farmer hears that half of that seed isn't making a plant, it's kind of a hard pill to swallow. So interest in the planters has come up to try to improve that. So you know how we talked about this percent survival on the wheat with the lower seeding rates? In these studies here, we've gone from 1 pound to 5 pounds an acre. Of course, we're not using pounds, we're using kernels. At the lowest seeding rate, 1 pound an acre, our percentage survival is in that 70%, 75%. That's the best we've ever had for survival in canola. Again, as we move that seeding rate up, we are going to continually to drop that percent survival. And I'd say on average, and if I had to render a guess across even Western Canada, we're probably only getting 50%. So what? I don't know. When we move to the planter versus the air drill here, and this is not just a whole shank air drill. This is the pillar laser open. It has independent depth control. Really does a good job. Zero till seed placement. We increased our emergence with this planter on a 12-inch row spacing by 35%. Just in 1 year data last year. So the reason for that is because I think we're not crowding the plants as much. You've got that very nice spacing. You're not just dumping seeds out in bursts. Probably more importantly is that it takes depth control to another level. I think it has more to do with depth control than it does precision. So a precision planter uses these plates. This is a monosem seeder. This plate, there is a vacuum that sucks through this plate. And each little hole will suck a seed up and then drop it very precisely. The same way that it does with corn, it's just the spaces are a lot closer together and the holes are a lot smaller. So you have to pay attention to the seed size of your canola and your settings in the drill. Sometimes you can have 2 seeds suck on there and sometimes you can have skips. But that's the general premise. The other thing is it operates on a parallel link system. How many of you guys actually know what a parallel linkage is? I hear people talk about parallel linkage. I go to the equipment manufacturer and says, okay, show me what is a parallel link. Nobody tell me? Come on, brave people. Yeah. So come on over here, you guys can see it. Next time somebody asks you, you'll actually know what a parallel linkage is. And, Morris is touting their parallel link. When we talk to guys like Dwayne Beck, he's modified his drill with a parallel linkage. All of these corn planters have a parallel link. See this linkage right here? It's parallel with this one. So it literally, it's that simple. There's two linkages, and when you compare it to the old traditional sense, we have one bar here. Now there's a physics difference that's interesting, especially important with a disc opener. When you have a single disc like that and you have one arm on it, you end up sort of just pulling the disc, and then it bounces across the soil and it doesn't have the penetration. When you have the parallel link on it now, you actually are pushing that disc through. So it literally cuts through the soil better. And then you have these great big depth wheels that manage the depth. So it does a really good job when you move to a disc to control that depth in front. But like I said, these weren't designed for zero till. So in front now we have these residue managers. Adjusting these is critical to doing a good job with canola. On top of that, what I really like is the seed firmer. This great big wheel here, it just presses the seed into the ground. That also helps making sure that you've got that really consistent depth control.
What about trash between staggered units? A no-till, like what does trash get caught up?
Nobody's seeding canola on a commercial scale in a 12-inch row spacing that I know of at this point in time. I can tell you that Monsanto, their entire research fleet uses this planter on 12-inch row for their corn and for their canola. Corn not on 12 inches, but they have these fancy ones that slide back and forth. We literally just unbolt them and move them around for our studies. So we're studying a 20-inch row spacing and a 12-inch row spacing. Our 12-inch row spacing last year had a 10 bushel increase in yield at 2 pounds an acre. Now, I don't want to say that I'm advocating lower seeding rates, but if you are going to move to a lower seeding rate scenario, this type of implement can make it possible while still mitigating risk. So I'm a little excited about it. I've talked to farmers who have moved to this, planting their canola. The entire seed production in southern Alberta for canola is using these planters. They love them. So still early. We have some bugs to work out. We need to be able to pair them with air carts properly. I think there's a lot of adaptations. I'd like to see better down pressure here. We just have these little springs here. It's not enough when the soil gets hard. So we had issues cutting through with deep enough with the corn. You can get airbag systems that will adjust the down pressure automatically. So once we sort of adapt some of these technologies, I'm actually going to predict we're going to see more and more guys move into seeding canola with these planters. I'm being harassed by Jamie that it's time to move on. Is there any quick questions before you go?
Well, that yield difference that you had there, Ken, was that compared on row spacing or?
Let's compare to this.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So in general, the planter on 12s was that much better than the...
Yeah, and the 20-inch row spacing that everybody's doing, it matched this one. So the row spacing is really what matters.
You're saying 12 is...
I think 12 or 15 with these is going to be a beauty. Yeah. All right. If anybody wants to stay behind and talk to me more, you're most welcome to, because we're close to